All right, hey guys, Sam here with you. It's Thursday the 17th. We're going to look at it, get an update here on Amazon. Now, so I've got a weekly chart up here of Amazon, and I'm in log scale. You really need to with something that's got this kind of a move. If you want to get some look into that subdivision here, and that's all that happens here is we compress the upper numbers. So I can see the separation much better here. So here coming off of 0, right? So right, we can't just ignore that, right? So that despite the fact that that's on a relative basis, these are right, take it out of log scale, right? You can't even see it, but you can't ignore it. So 1, 2, I got to go 1, 2. So then coming out of here, it looks like again we go 1, 2. Because now, granted, this is in log scale, so everything is skewed to your eye a little bit. But I'm looking at that as a 1, 2. What do we do? Right to the golden zone. All right, got to go with the 2. So 1, 2, 1, 2 looks like 1, 2. Right. So swing high, golden zone. Right. A, B, C. Rip up. Right. So from the golden zone, we get 2. You see the little stutter here. They get second target. So I don't see another way to count that. So if this being the dominant supercycle, if this is 1, 2, and we're going up for the big 3 here, well, there's a lot of different impulses within the move here, as you might anticipate, something like Amazon. So 1, 2, 1, 2 looks like 3, 4. So if we focus in here, this is really what we're working on. So let me wick this off here. Looks like this little sideways zone here is the best candidate for 1, 2, 3, 4. There's our just the 15 load. What is that? Where are we hitting that? January of 15. So I'm going to pull back out here and we'll focus on the low here. And let me see what daily. Now we can get out of log scale now. So here from this low. So we're trying to get some handle on where we are here. So seems like a reasonable 1, 2. You know how else are you going to count that, right? There's just staring you in the face, right? So 1, 2, it looks like 3, 4, 5 is in. So potentially now that's just completing the third of the fifth. 1, 2, right? All the subdivision is there. What have we done? Right to the fifth. Well, we're not quite to the 50. So are we done? So it's a little bit of a challenge here because, of course, it's going to look very much like the S&P. The S&P is implying that there's another move down here. So if I pull that off here, knowing that this is the zone we're kind of looking in, well, now it becomes a matter of dissecting this. So let's just zoom in here. I'm going to stay on the daily. See if we can make sense of this. Well, hard to, just like the S&P. You get a little 1, 2, 3. Is this A, B, C into a 4? Let's zoom in a little more here. Well, how else do you interpret that? So 1, 2, you could go 3, 4, 5. Let's see, you can get this as this all is likely related. So if I pull from the 2 to the proposed 3, between the 38 and the 50, we go right to second target. So let's consider the possibility here we got an A wave. Well, this looks like an expanded flat. Now are we done? Well, same question in the S&P. Are we done? Well, let's take a look at it. See if we can come up with a reasonable expectation as to what's to follow. Well, of course we want to look at the range from the dominant high to the dominant low. Right? Exactly like the S&P. 2 trips into the golden zone, we rip down. Now we're back at the 50. Literally, I just did a little mini update on this. So, are we done? Well, so it's very hard to know. So this, yeah, you can get 5 out of there. It's always tougher on equities because of the gapping nature here. But you can get a 1, 2. Well, let's look at that, right? So do you have enough there? Right, so if this is, come here. If that's a 1 and that's a 2, now that, yep, so we can clear it. So you gotta, it's hard to argue with this. So if that's done, we can all, so it doesn't necessarily mean the retracement is done, but something just got done. So, right, so is this, boy, it's hard to see that as anything else. Now, what's off a little bit here is the symmetry, right? So if this is A and we're getting the B here and that's the C, Well, the C relative to the A is mighty short. So what's the alternate? That's a B, and we've gone 1, 2, and the C is yet to come much lower. I don't see another way to go with this because, like the S&P, although it's a little harder to see here because of the gapping nature of equities, this looks more like a 5. So I think it's 3 here, 3 here. So I think we get 3, 3, 5 into, so we get an expanded flat here. So if that's AB, well, there's only a couple of different possibilities here. See, the C is in. Now, the alternate, what's the alternate? Well, this could be an ABC of a W, and we're going into the X now. Then that can go higher. So you've got these will just be relative to where the algos. We can anticipate that they're going to kick in, but remember, so algo doesn't care about an Elliott count, so they're just going to go dominant swing to high to low. We're hitting the 50 now. We're just stalling a little bit here. So you can see all the structure is here. But if we're thinking about, could this be a 2? Could this be 1, 2? I mean, suppose you can't rule that out. That we've just, so rather than the C being in, we've just done, it would fit, actually it would fit better, right? The A, B, and then a much lower C would actually fit better. Of course, the C, we're just looking for the 4 of the larger degrees. Let me get that. Let's take that up a bit here. So let's go, let's try minuet. There we go. Okay, so 1, 2. Now, how do we know? Well, let's pull this off. 786, right? You know, we've seen them go this far. Now this, again, it's like the S&P. It's hard to get. If this were a 2, you'd have to be thinking this way. You'd have to think that was your A, that's your B, and we're in the process of finishing the C up here. It's a little bit cleaner, but of course the problem is the symmetry is all off. So if that's right, if this is the A and the B, it's the same thing. I just went through this in the S&P. The symmetry doesn't work, right? It looks more like, if it would play better as a 1, 2, 3. Actually, you'd go, well, let's see, look at it here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Can't be a 2. That's what it looks like to me, that we can get a 1, 2. So just to get it labeled, it looks like we can go 1, 2, 3, 4 going up for the 5, right? So this can't be 1, 2 given the way that subdivides. It's just out of curiosity here. If we take the length of that 1 over for the 2, well, shit. Look at that, right? So here's the highest probability zone for a 3. We're right where we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that now you kind of back into, well, wait a minute. That would suggest that more likely this C is done here. Where is my C? Here we go. So now we bring this back over and we say, okay, is that the C of the 4? Is that done? And that all we've done, we're just in the process of putting in the 1 wave. Well, hard to argue with that, right? As you work through it. So that sure looks like we've got a contender here, but of course we are running into this resistance. So you might think, well, of course the question is always, why do we stop there? Why do we stop there? 50, I mean, you're certainly in a zone where you would anticipate it. So if this were going to be, so relative to where the algos are going to participate, you're in the sell zone. So that would suggest that it sets up rather nicely. If this is done, and we're going to do a little ABC here, we're just getting set for that would be the 1, 2 of the 5th. So to put that all back together, let's see, can I do it on a daily? I think we can. All right, so this would be 3. Let's change that color. Let's go. We'll go to yellow. Here, come here. And we'll go up. Let's go to intermediate so you can see it. Okay, so ABC is in, right? So how is that relative to the 2? That's what we care about. So from the 2, right, through the 3, in between the 38 and the 50, right? So not unreasonable that this is now just getting started. So 4 is in. Of course, the broader market, there's going to be a factor here. Now, this is not relative. So this would be the 4, right? So the 5. This we're trying to get this 5 here, right? Right. Not the larger degree 5. That would be the 5 of the super cycle. So let's get this up. Shit, I got to go beyond. How about primary? There we go. So this would be 3, 4, 5 of the larger 3. When then we'd come down, we'd be looking for the 4, 5, right? Which could, you know, Amazon dominating the world there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like 1, 2 is going in. Now you can't be 100% about it, right? Your most reasonable estimation here. This is all, it's all quite logical, with the possible exception that you don't have traditional length here of the A relative to the C, right? It doesn't quite make 100%. Not that we've seen, that's not uncommon. It's just, it's more common that we would make the 50 and the, so you'd be looking for this, right? So this is where you're teed up, you know, salivating. Oh shit, I get a chance to buy Amazon down here, 1263, right in that zone. Well, right, is that just, you know, they're front running you because they don't want to give it to you? Happens all the time. So that's the only hesitation I have in calling that done. So the reasonable play here is to work for the next two. So if this is a good 5 here, and we're going to get a little ABC down, that's what you're looking for right there. So not that I would suggest selling it per se here. I mean, you could here, but if you just, that's not how I would do it. I would wait here. I would wait for that to pivot. Now here's your golden zone, right? That's the one you want. So let it come down here, right? We got enough confusion, broader market, government shutdown, you know, all sorts of craziness going on. So, right, does the market seem to care? Not really. Doesn't, does it? Right. So if you try and think it through, you're like, holy shit, man, the government's closed. We got all sorts of issues. You know, what knows what's going on in Washington? You would think that uncertainty would have the market at least hesitating and not just driving higher off of the low. Market says, who needs government? Right, so I certainly would be paying attention as we come down here. If we get a nice clean ABC and we get into this range here, as you can see a little structure over here, we get to some of this prior structure, very common to retrace to this zone. So we come back down here. It's hard not to like the long side. Of course, you'd have some median lines that you could, right? There's a, you know, I'm free drawing here, but there's a golden corner pocket setting up. So let's go back to original. It's pretty sharp, right? If that's going to get up there, so you might be looking for 1, 2, 3. Right, there's your high probability zone for, so that we could go 1, 2 up for the 3. Now 4 and 5 still yet to come. So you potentially, now all of this going up here, so this would look, you'd have potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you got Amazon at 24.50. And that potentially, now where have I got it all here? That potentially is the 5 of the 3. All right, so there you go. All right, it's nothing but, does anybody not shop on Amazon? It was my favorite place to shop. I sure wouldn't bet against it. All right, I don't anticipate myself taking the short side of Amazon, maybe ever. Right? You know, right. Well, let's just stick to the charts, right? So 1, 2, right? Pay attention there. That could be an opportunity. All right, guys, that's all I got for today. See you later.